For thousands of years, the timeless dance of light spilling over the mountains has stirred human souls. Light changes by the seasons in every moment, every time of day, and all kinds of weather. During the autumn, the hardwood leaves catch the light in brilliant yellows and orange and red or darker brown and scarlet. And in the spring, new leaves open up to the sunlight and bathe the air. Travelers driving south on Interstate 81 enter Rockbridge County at the old White's truck stop. A dozen miles down the road, we drop down toward the town of Lexington, home to Virginia Military Institute and Washington and Lee University. House Mountain rises up on the southwestern horizon, with the sun setting behind it in the evening. Our mountains in the east are old and time-worn and covered in thick forests. Visitors from the west, used to the dramatic Rocky Mountains or the Sierra Nevada, sometimes call our mountains hills. But to us, the Appalachians and the Blue Ridge sound a call to the wild. House Mountain seems to be a wild place, but it's not a wilderness. Country roads surround the mountain, showing the two peaks and saddle in a variety of views. Farms and homes creep up the flanks of House Mountain. Fields of corn or alfalfa climb up out of the hollers, and pastures run higher than horses and cattle care to go. White-tailed deer and wild turkey emerge from the woods and feed in the high pastures, stitching together the settled with the wild places. A place like House Mountain lies beyond the road atlas. It's a place of rocks and woods and springs, a place of bobcats and black snakes, songbirds and black bears. A place like House Mountain shows that the wilderness has not completely vanished in this world. When you walk up the old jeep trail across the south end of Little House Mountain, you climb up out of the settled places. You can still see traces of old fences and fence posts. Along the trail, you may spot the remains of an old chimney and plantings of periwinkle and daffodils that bloom in the spring. Off in the woods are the outbuildings and middens of old farmsteads. You start to imagine a farm family living way up on the mountain, traveling into town once a month for flour and sugar and coffee. When you walk into the saddle between Little House and Big House Mountains, the whole sky opens up. You look down a slight swale into the ancient apple orchard, with its gnarled trees and crabbed fruit. The coralberry, wineberry, and high grasses fill the understory. To the northwest, you can just see the line of Interstate 64, the glint of sunlight on big trucks hauling goods toward West Virginia. Across the orchard, the jeep trail descends abruptly out of the saddle, down into a deep cleft between the two mountains. To your right, Little House Mountain rises up out of the apple trees and undergrowth. Rock ledges run up across the face of the mountain, and mountain laurel bushes promise handholds and maybe a few troubles. If you follow the trail markers, you can wind around the big, house-sized boulders on the south end of Little House, then climb up onto the ridge and keep hiking north through the laurel thickets until you reach the cliffs at the north end. There you can look out on Carrs Creek and back east toward Lexington, toward the roads and buildings you left behind. To your left, across the orchard and beyond a rough, three-sided trail shelter, Big House Mountain rises up in steep cliff faces and scrubby pines. The path runs up past the shelter and spring house, then climbs the south end of Big House. And if you know how to find it, you can climb up the rocks on the south end of the mountain and look out over Collierstown, out toward North Mountain. If you follow the main trail, you hike up onto the ridge and follow it north, looking down into the saddle and across at Little House. At a certain point, the trail starts to descend the northwest slope of Big House, You climb down a ways before you decide to turn back. A place like House Mountain is more than timber and water for human use. Think about hiking up the trail on a clear evening and arriving at the saddle at sunset. Imagine spending the night camping under the apple trees. Maybe you've got a campfire to ward off the cold. And sometime in the night, you think to look straight up overhead into the night sky. You watch the stars unfold. You see some constellations, the familiar ones, Orion, the Big Dipper, the Seven Sisters. And you realize that the prominent smudge across the zenith is the Milky Way, a creamy white wash of countless stars. And you realize you're living on a planet, in a galaxy, in the universe, and your head seems to spin with all the planets and stars. Even on House Mountain, you can feel your smallness against the rocks and trees and stones that just are what they are, with or without you. They keep to their habits and their routines, as they've done for thousands of years, and they'll keep to them long after you're no longer on the mountain. Travelers to wild places feel some version of this vastness. You look into the depths of the night sky, and you feel your tiny heart beating. You listen to the barred owls calling in the woods on House Mountain, and then you look into the campfire, and you can feel it close and warm. You listen to the owls, and hear the echo of their calls, and the sound just reverberates forever.